Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself and Mike today. This one's kind of interesting. A lot's gone on around the last 24 hours. Edson Alvarez obviously just signed for West Ham last summer and now he's being linked with a move to Manchester United. It's saying that we are very reluctant to sell him, but he's not unsellable. We are valuing him around 60 to 80 million euros. Man United have inquired about him and gathered information about what the figures would be. Ten Hag has a high opinion of him. There are no current offers on the table just yet, but that could all be pretty much out the window right now. But because of what happened with Alvarez last night in the Copa America, I mean, he'd suffered a really, really bad hamstring injury. He kind of just went down out of the blue when he was running back, like he'd been shot. If you've seen the video, you know what I'm talking about. But it looked very bad. And those types of hamstring injuries are normally around, at least 2 to 3 months in terms of the recovery date. So any kind of potential move here is probably going to be delayed, but it could still happen towards the latter stages of the transfer window. So this is definitely a rumor to take seriously because obviously Casemiro at Man United has just, he's pretty much done there now. I'd be surprised if he stays there past the summer. So they're looking to bring in another defensive midfielder. It can't be Declan Rice anymore because he's moved on already. So now they're going after Edson Alvarez. And yeah, what do you make of it, Mike? It's an interesting rumor. Obviously, Alvarez himself has come out with the quotes, which people were kind of getting annoyed about online, saying, he's not gonna say anything until after the Copa America, which I think was totally fine to say. But in terms of the rumor to Man United, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's a really professional response for him, to be honest. Making the point of I'm at the Copa America, I only want to focus on that. And when I get back from there, we'll review what is and what isn't put in front. What is wrong with that? We can't just expect everyone to go, absolutely no, I'm staying. I bleed claret and blue. I have no desire to go anywhere. It's just not going to happen. Like even Paqueta even said when it was Man City stuff, out of respect for my employers, I'm not going to talk. Don't want to talk about it any further.
Yeah.
All I'll say is Man City are a great team. What has Alvarez said that's wrong? He's just going to say, look, there's nothing to talk about. When we get back, we'll talk about something or we'll talk about nothing. It's just making a point. There's nothing here to talk about now. And when I get back, there either is or there isn't. And if there is, we'll talk about it. If there isn't, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I can see why they're now looking at Edson. Because let's be honest, on Ten Hag's recommendation, they went after Anthony, and that absolutely has fallen flat on its face as probably one of the worst buys United have bought in decades.
A long time.
It's been so bad. He's a player. What I find so funny is that he's so good in the Ajax, and even we put him in one of our threads as, it could be a decent option for a club like us. Obviously, what they then went for is astronomical, but he's full from what he was in the Dutch league and what he has been in the Brazil shirt to what he is for United is incredible. And so you can understand that maybe when he first approached the idea of Eddie going to United, probably when they were looking at Casemiro, and then when they ended up also going for Amrabat, a year later. So I can imagine it's probably been a topic of conversation previously, but now there's a body of truth or a kind of body of evidence that he can play really well in the Premier League, which is why they're interested. But I don't see it happening, really, because we're saying 60 to 80 million. I think they put that in euros, but
yeah,
I would suspect we'll ask for around about 80 million pounds. When you're thinking that he's an important player, has 3 years, maybe 4 years left in his contract.
Yeah,
we probably value him almost as highly as Kudus and Paqueta. And they have 85 million pound release clauses, one active, one to be active in the following season. So we're probably valuing close to that. And quite frankly, when I see Jim Ratcliffe at the moment, he hasn't proved it any differently, but I just look at him as David Sullivan with better PR and money. He's almost one and the same person, and keeps talking about he doesn't want to be taken for a ride and doesn't want to be overspending on players. Well, here's the rub. Everyone knows you have money. Everyone looks at Man United and looks at what they've done in the past and go, well, they're mugs when it comes to transfers and they will overpay.
Yeah.
So everyone will go, paid X amount for Anthony, you paid X amount for Maguire, you paid this for Pogba. We value these players in arguably the same sphere in terms of importance to our club, not necessarily in terms of quality, but importance to their club. So this is how much we want.
Yeah, it's also, I think, as well, because it's Alvarez is playing in a position we don't have a lot of depth in at all. He really is kind of the only natural six in that squad right now, and it's someone we're trying to not build the team around, but he's very integral to that midfield. And when he doesn't play, it's very evident. In terms of whether I think it would happen, as you say, it's going to take a lot of money for them. I think it would cost 60-70 million to get it done. I don't think we'd accept any less than that. And we'd have to have replacements lined up. We'd have to have other people, similar to what we did with the Declan Rice money. We were already planning what we wanted to do with it when he was being sold. We looked at Ward-Prowse, we looked at Alvarez, we looked at Kudus. So we need to have that plan in place for this. I think Steiden and co will obviously prepare for that if they start to feel like there is a move that could potentially happen here. I think it would be a shame, but I just think that hamstring injury just puts such doubt on this now, because he could have had a really good performance at Copa America and his value would have gone a little bit up, but Man United might have gone for it because he's coming off the back of a really good tournament. But with that injury now, it just makes it a little bit more, obviously less likely, but it also makes it more interesting for the latter stages of the transfer window, which is where I get a little bit concerned, because if this is a move that goes through with 2 weeks, 1 week left of the transfer window, how do we approach that in that situation, Mike, if that did happen? Because, as we mentioned before, Alvarez is a very integral part of the squad at the moment.
Yeah, I know when you look at social media, you see, I say panic at times, constant talk about phantom budgets because someone has said it's X and someone said it's Y. And there's so much conflicted information. So whenever there's this conversation around a budget, it's just ignore it. It's pointless trying to even think about it, because it's been said that it's substantial. It's then said it's really low, and then it's been said it's low, and just ignore it. There's no point. You're not also going to go spend £30 million or 30 million euros on a unproven yet highly exceptionally talented youngster if your budget is that limited, and then be looking at spending 25 to 30, maybe 35 million pounds on Max Kilman if it is limited. I think Max Kilman one is also going to be facilitated by essentially the sale of Kera, which has already gone through, and then likely again they're probably going to cover that. But again, just talking budget is just pointless. And the way I look at it, if Alvarez was to go, he isn't going to go for anything less than, I don't think really, in all honesty, about 60 to 70 million pounds, which is a fantastic wedge of cash to be getting. And I think in the past I would have been concerned if it was just David Sullivan and maybe even going off of the manager's recommendation, because as we know with David Moyes, he tended to dither. And I don't necessarily feel that, whilst there has been history of him always being incredibly well organised, I think the only option that would have been put there would have been Scott McTominay. So what I feel is what will happen is with Steiten, and I believe this across the entire squad, we have players already, a list of players, probably 4 or 5 players per player per position that we would buy if someone was to be sold.
Do you think we'll want to sign a defensive midfielder regardless of whether he stays or goes, especially with this hamstring injury now?
I think we'll obviously have a look at Potts. I don't think Potts will be there to start. We'll obviously, whilst it's not naturally his best position, if it's only a few games, Souček could be looked there.
Yeah.
Also looking at Lopetegui, he does like to play a deep line kind of playmaker. So there may be even the idea, and again, I shudder at this idea, but he may think that we'll maybe using Ward-Prowse in that deeper position, essentially playing a quarterback, looking to kind of spray the passes. Because we're going to, in his mind, we'll probably assume we're going to have far more of the ball. There's maybe less reliance on his defensive.
You can't have him as the 6.
I completely agree. But again, I'm just kind of spitballing, playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Within the within the squad that we have, again, he may even look to Potts. Potts may have a really good preseason. He may go, you know what, you deserve to start along experienced midfielders, and gives him a go. Again, I personally feel that we will look. It may now encourage us to go back into the market. I wouldn't be surprised if we look toward Pablo Maya, who we looked at previously when Newman was around. That Newman really liked. It's also been linked with Arsenal in the last season or so. I wouldn't be surprised if we went back there to the Brazilian market because there's good value. If we were to sell Alvarez, again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's, again, us to lean on the good work that has been done in Brazil from Steiten's holiday, where he did nothing apparently. Obviously, didn't create any kind of relationships or anything like that.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if we then, although there's supposedly been difficult in terms of a sale to other clubs and not really want to kind of have a conversation, we would maybe go back and have a conversation around Andre at Fluminense, who would probably be available for around 35 to 40 million euros. I would imagine that will be one of the deals that we would look to do because, again, it's half the price of what we've then kind of got for Alvarez, but he is a pure defensive midfielder. If you look at him from a statistical point of view, absolutely phenomenal defensive midfielder, but he is incredible on the ball as well. So, and if anyone's ever watched Fluminense or watched what we talked about with Alvarez, they're a team that play in really tight spaces, that have really good interchanging, really good kind of connectivity between players. He's someone that, if he's allowed to play and is still with us, Paqueta would adore to play with, and reminds me a bit of early point of Bruno Guimaraes when he first came into Europe as well, before he developed into more of an all-rounder. He has those elements of his play that is similar to Bruno in my eyes, and I think he would be a fantastic player. Him being 22, I think he is at the moment. Again, younger player, likely to, from a growth point of view, from a potential grow exponentially, his value grow as well. It would, if that was possible, if that was the scenario, I would take it because I think that is very smart business. I would miss Eddie because I actually do look at him as a potential captain for me next season, because I think the way he plays and the way he works, I think it's great to have him. Discipline's a bit of an issue. However, I would also put that down to he's a player that does something that we don't do as a club very well. He does the dirty things, and he's not nice, whereas too many of our players are nice. There's a scenario where I would be happy to let him go, but it's also a very complicated and difficult scenario to make work as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're going to get, say, like 70 million for him, it's a huge portion of money to work with. And I think I would be kind of in the same camp as you. I think he's been a very good player for us, but I think he's replaceable. I think he's a player that we can use that budget, to spread across the squad with and kind of reinvest. But obviously want to keep him. I think this hamstring injury is going to make it difficult for any move for Man United to action. But if Man United do come knock in and they have around 60 to 70 million to spend, I think it will be difficult to keep hold of him, to be honest. But I think it will be interesting.
Yeah, and I look at it as like, I know we say it would be difficult to keep hold of him, but I only think from perspective that he'll I'd quite like to go maybe play for Man United because of the name and Ten Hag. But I think from a club point of view, we offered that. I don't think it would be a difficult conversation internally. And I know that is crazy because of how much we talk up how good Eddie is, and I've just mentioned a captain. Someone offers 70 million, I don't think for me it would be a difficult conversation because I'm confident that the club and its current guys with Tim Stites and his team have a list of 3 to 4, 5, maybe even kind of replacements ready to go for him in terms of what they want to go for.
Yeah.
And with that amount of money as well, something we mentioned about with Declan Rice, which I don't think we ever really did properly, was you can make up that player in the aggregate. So you don't necessarily need to find one player that does what he does. You can go and buy 2 players, 2 good starting players to go into your midfield that make up the aggregate of what he does very well, but then also improves on other areas. And I think that's another aspect that we as a club would probably look at as we could sell him and bring in 2 top quality central midfielders, boost our overall play and ability, that again grows the team exponentially as well.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this one. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of the rumor for Edson Alvarez going to Man United. Do you think this injury is going to completely negate any of that right now? Or do you still see a deal happening this summer for him? So yeah, let us know in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And Mike, until the next one,
Yep.
come
Come
on,
on,
you
you
ones.
ones.